Greetings, greetings, greetings. I am back again and again. I think I'm gonna do these videos every day, It's fun. Every time I do it, it's a little bit more fun. But I want to talk about a topic that is big, really big in America. It's crazy. We're one of the if not the wealthiest countries in the world. And yet, antidepressants are the number one prescribed medication in this country. And it's because depression runs rampant, in American society. And it has nothing to do with the things that you have. Because you go to a lot of third world countries, they don't have nearly as high, suicidal rates as we experience here in this country. And intuitively, it would seem like they should, because they don't have the material possessions that we have. But I wanted to talk about how I've learned to overcome depression. And notice that I didn't say how I learned how I cured my depression like it was a past tense. It's a constant thing. And I've learned that that's okay. That's what helps me get through it. You may or may not know, but throughout my life, I've dealt with depression. The earliest bout that I remember when I was around 7 years old. And it was terrifying, because I was a child, and I had suicidal thoughts, and I didn't understand. I felt so much pain in my life, just in life in general, and not being okay with who I am, dealing with these types of intense feelings in the public education system. And you can understand, how cruel sometimes kids can be, not knowing, what they're doing, just being kids, and I don't, harbor anything against anyone, from that time. But imagine, just crying uncontrollably in front of all your peers, and you're a child, and nobody understands what the fuck is going on, including yourself. You know what I'm saying? And it was a rough time. And then the next bout I had was I was in middle school. I was in that transitionary period between 5th and 6th grade. And if you a teacher, if you just remember anything about middle school is one of the roughest time periods, I believe, in adolescence, because it's that weird gray area where you don't really know. You already don't know what the fuck is going on when you're a teenager. But when you're like in that preteen stage, the confusion is just even higher. And so I dealt with it then. And then I went through another bout in adulthood. And then looking back, it was a lot of times where I was functionally depressed. I thought, depression had a certain look, that you had to be at the brink of wanting to take your life in order to be depressed. But you've come to you come to normalize pain in a way where life isn't really that fucking amazing, but you ain't dead. So you think life is going good. But then I've experienced heaven, because heaven is a mind state. It's not a place that you go to when you die. Technically, though, it is, because I'm going to get into that. But I experienced when you've experienced heaven, you look back and you was like, damn, my life was shitty then. Like, you thought that you was normal, but you look back and like, bruh, this shit was not lit at all. But what I've come to understand in the process of growth and in learning about myself and life is that depression is something that's necessary to life. It gets a bad rap, it gets a really bad rap, and it gets labeled as this undefeatable thing, because I don't think it's supposed to be technically defeated. I think we have to learn how to incorporate it and use it to our advantage, like everything else in life. Like the things that you perceive as your flaws become your strengths when you learn how to incorporate those aspects of yourself. And depression has become that thing for me. It's like every time you're growing, we have these shells that no longer work. The person that we once thought we were, we have to let it go. And that's where the pain comes in, because this person that you had this image of is no longer working to create happiness in your life. And it's time to let that person go. It's time to let that version of yourself die. And you go through a mourning process, basically. I feel like depression is a death that you're alive to witness. And you're literally witnessing an old person or an old part of yourself or an old version of yourself die. And it's what you were comfortable with. It's what you were used to. And it's hard to let that go. It's just like letting anybody else that you love go. You're used to having this person in your life. You're used to relating to this person. You're used to communicating with this person. But now you can't anymore. And you have to figure out how to move on without that person. So every time we get to a new level of life, you ever heard the phrase new level, new devil? I think that's what depression is. Your soul wants to grow to a new level, a new mountaintop. And around that corner, you don't know how to necessarily navigate that mountaintop or that new terrain. You know what you used to do, but you got to let that go, because that person can't help you where you're going. So when you have to let that go, the holding on of that and the not wanting to release that is where the pain comes from. And the longer we hold on and the longer we resist the place where our soul is trying to take us, the greater the pain gets. And it's like life is like a wave. And I say this a lot, life is a wave. So it's like, it's not this, a lot of times we expect life to be like this. We eventually get to this place where finally I can just kick back, cruise, and take it easy and get a fucking break. But that ain't how it worked. We came here to learn how to constantly grow. And the great thing about that is there are no limitations to how far you can go and how far you can grow. Because see, if there was a plateau or a certain area where you get to and you're like, all right, then that means there's limits on your existence, which isn't true. You're an unlimited, infinite being. And so to constantly reach that new level of growth, you got to dip down a little bit. And that's when you're in that valley, that's when shit is dark. That's when things are frustrating. That's where the pain is. But it's not the end of the world. It's the end of a version of yourself that once worked, but it's now time to let that person go and grow into a new shell. And when that shell becomes too uncomfortable and it starts feeling constricting, you got to let that go. But each time you get a little bit stronger every time you go through it. And so now when I have these moments of darkness, I almost kind of get a little excited because I know that huge growth for me is around the corner. And it's just like learning how to walk. We go through these cycles of basically like amnesia where we're figuring it out. Okay. And then we get it and you're like, yes, all right. Shit is lit now. I got it. And then and it's like, yeah, you learned how to walk on that last floor, but now you're on the next floor. So now you got to learn how to walk all over again. And it can be frustrating, sometimes because it's like, when will it be over? But the thing is, you never can get it done. Abraham Hicks says that a lot. It's like, you'll never be able to get it done. And that's the beautiful part, because you can never get it done because there's no limits to you. And that's the great thing. And when I have these moments of darkness, I don't see it as, because see, I didn't have this knowing before. I used to see it as there's something wrong with me. Why can't I get it? I'm missing something that somebody else got. Nobody else is going through this but me. It's a lie. Everybody goes through moments of trial and tribulation. It's a part of our nature as human beings. That's the only way we get stronger and how we get better. So instead of looking at yourself as this anomaly, the fact, when I woke up to the fact that I'm not alone in this, everybody has emotions, everybody deals with doubt, it was such a relief, because I for so long, I felt like I was this outcast that just was weak. Why can't I get it and everybody else can? It's not true, but it's like you have to learn how to take your struggles and learn to use them as your strengths to get stronger. So now when I go through these points of darkness, it's like I know it's an opportunity for me to get better. And I use it for my advantage, and it helps me to get stronger. So I bring up this song. I don't know if you know CeeLo Green. He had his first album, the Perfect Imperfections of CeeLo Green. You know what I mean? Which that album was like a gospel album for me when I was a kid. I used to listen to it all the time, and it resonated with me so heavy because he was talking about a lot of metaphysical things, which I didn't know at the time. But looking back, I understand what he was talking about. But it was like, he said this lyric, he was like, I only have to die once to never, ever die again. Because see, we are energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. So a lot of times when we're fighting in that depressive state, when we're in depression, our greatest fear is destruction. Our greatest fears, our worst fears coming true and dying ultimately, and dying without getting whatever it is that's on our heart done. But to me, I've learned death is not the finish line. I believe in reincarnation. I believe infinitely in reincarnation. I've seen a lot of my past lives, quote unquote, because time isn't real and time is all relative and there's multiple timelines going on at the same time. So technically, my past lives are current lives that are still going on in different places, if that makes sense. But once I realized that I could allow myself to die while alive, I lost all fear of death. And then when these points of darkness come, I know that it can't overcome me because my soul is indestructible. It's indestructible. So if I lose this vessel today, I'll come back again and again and again, and I'll get a chance to do it some more. And it's never ending. The universe is infinite. It's always expanding. And in order to expand, you have to contract. Because see, it's just like when a woman is giving birth, she goes through something called contractions. It's where her uterus is going just like this. Contraction, expansion. And then the newness is born. It's the same thing in depression. So the depression is that contraction. You're getting ready to give birth to a new version of yourself. And when you allow that to happen and you allow that process to do its thing, instead of fighting it, instead of seeing yourself as an outcast and seeing yourself as unworthy of what you want, you can use it to get better and get stronger and allow yourself to give birth to the new version of you that wants to take you the places you want to go. So that's pretty much my spiel on depression. If you're dealing with it, if you're going through a dark time right now, hear me when I say this. You are loved. You are needed. You are desired. A lot of times we can lose sight of that when we're in this place and we feel like we're all alone. But trust me, the most successful people that you see, because a lot of people look up to me and they wonder, like, how do you do it? I have days just like you where I doubt everything, where I wonder if I can get it done. I wonder how I'm going to do it, but it's okay. Me learning that it's okay to fall down helped me to learn to walk on each new level. So understand it's okay to fall down. There's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're supposed to go through periods of time where you lose your footing sometimes. When you were a baby, you learn how to walk. You were bumping the stuff, fall down, scrape your knee, but you kept getting up until you learned. Then you learned how to run, Then you learned how to ride a bike. Each time you went up. But each time when you went up, you had to fall down. You fell off the bike. You bumped into someone when you was crawling, So let yourself give birth to the new version of you. Talk to people. You're not a burden.